Let's just take a moment and land where we are. Make sure the right microphone is happening. Okay. So just show up for this moment. Let your eyes take in the entire room at once. Release anything that's pulling you into the future or dragging you back to your past. And just be with what's here. The experience of that is an experience akin to slowing way down. Nothing to tend to, nothing to achieve. Nothing to push or pull at. Just drop all the ropes and let it all come to a stop. And as you do that, notice how your attention naturally floats upwards to the center of your forehead and crown. This allows you a safe space to just expand in all directions. The obstacles of your future and your past are removed, and you can just safely unfold, open up, and patiently expand. Use your breath to anchor yourself in this moment. This is the only moment in which you're breathing. I would invite you to ask yourself, which experience is real? This one, where you're just slowly letting go into something comfortable and self-sustaining? Or the world you're letting go of to do it? Which is real and which is a conjuration? Which is inescapable and which is a spell we cast upon ourselves? Dealing with life is kind of like dealing with a liar. We've all had those people in our lives from time to time. They come in, they say a bunch of things that feel out of sync with what you know. They say it with confidence. And you start to doubt what you know. You take on different ideas that aren't true to your life. You respond to other people from the perspective of a false understanding. And they react to it. Maybe you even make financial choices based on somebody's lies. And everything just starts to get kind of chaotic. The liar doesn't want to get caught, and so they continue telling more lies just to keep the lie going. After a while, you even start to make excuses for them. You start to support their lies even against the gnawing in your gut, because at that point, the pain of finding out that they were not to be trusted feels like it might be worse than just continuing to go along with the lie. Have you ever been in that position? I think most of us have at least touched on it. What is all of this if it's all a lie? And so you just stay quiet when you should speak up. You take actions that maybe you shouldn't take, just to put off dealing with it another day, just to avoid the difficult conversation a little longer, just to avoid dealing with the fact that you've been lied to a little longer. Hours become days, become years. And eventually the lie becomes a part of your life. At some point you've been doing it so long, it's seeped into your subconscious And even when you try and live out the truth, the lie is expressing itself onto the screen of your life through your subconscious self. Or you die never having dealt with it, and you come back now with this part of you expressing that you don't even understand where it came from. And that can happen lifetime after lifetime. Undealt with things have a certain unspoken continuity to them. A lot of the things in your life that you don't know how to change were built that way. Dealing with life is like dealing with a liar.
I'm sorry, could you give an example of what you mean like by a lie that like becomes part of your life?
Yeah. So let's say you were somebody who was mistreated a certain way, and you knew that you needed to stand up for yourself, but you never did. And you never did because you knew if you did, there'd be consequences that you didn't want to deal with. And so there was a part of that that kind of made you feel less than, but you just kind of kept it going, thinking you would deal with it at some future date. And that feeling of being less than, and that kind of unspoken language that you are using to communicate with life, which basically says people are allowed to treat me this way, just kind of remains in the space for a long time. And eventually what happens is that starts playing out in your relationships, that starts playing out in everything that you do in small ways. You know, a lot of the things we deal with from parents play out in our marriages. They play out in our power dynamics in life. And in the lifetime where it happens, you have a greater chance of facing it and dealing with it, because you can at least, if you're willing, draw a line back to the source of it. You actually understand that it's something you haven't dealt with. But if you don't deal with it, if you just die and come back, you come back with that same injury inside of you, but now it's not attached to a moment you can put your finger on. It just feels like a legitimate character trait of you. And so from deep in your subconscious, you are projecting onto the screen of life. You are determining your actions and reactions to life according to this acquired inadequacy. But
I
the,
see. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
but my point is that the inadequacy, is it true or is it a lie? When you can sit down, step into this moment and let go of everything, what's true? That moment that you're in where it's safe to expand? Or this world that you just let go of to be able to be in that space? And to really know the answer to that question, you just have to ask yourself, what is self-existent? What is unavoidable? What is going to be there if I do nothing? Versus what's there because it's getting conjured into existence. The life that you live, even the good parts of your life, They're like interacting with a lie. And that's not to say your life is bad. That would also be a lie. Your life isn't good. Your life isn't bad. But the storylines of your life are lies on top of lies on top of lies. You know, there's a certain freedom that you acquire when you know you're dealing with a liar. I have people in my life that I know are dishonest. All my bullshit detectors go off when they're speaking to me. None of the things they say make sense. But because I know that about them, I can just sit there and listen to it and it has no impact on me. I can not tune it out. I can listen and I can just understand where they're coming from. But it doesn't have to become a story that continues to expand and compound in my world. And my life is kind of the same way. You know, this morning I woke up and there was a feeling of dread and a feeling of fear in my body. And that happens a lot because I'm very sensitive. And you know how this goes of all people. The first thing you do is you start asking yourself, why am I feeling like this? And your brain starts spinning all kinds of stories. It starts pulling things from your own life to feel fearful of or to feel bad about. And you work through those and you understand that that's a really natural process of the brain because you're dealing with a liar. But if you sit there after a while, you can come to realize, no, none of those things actually match up. I haven't been thinking about any of those things. And you come to realize that what's really happening is you're actually feeling somebody else freaking out. You're feeling somebody else going through a moment. And so it doesn't have to impact you in the same way. You continue to feel it, but there's really nothing for you to do about it. And it doesn't start spinning out into stories compounded on stories. If it did, you would take one of those stories and you would end up trying to deal with it in some way, and that would just create more stories, more reactions from whoever it is you have to interact with. It would change how you interact with them. You'd get thrown off your game because you're dealing with a liar and you don't realize you're dealing with a liar. I don't mean to set a negative view on life. I know liar is a bit of a charged word. But I say that to counter the trust you have in your stories. I say that also to point out the parts of you all that don't deal with what's in front of you, because it's just so much easier to let the lie continue. At some point, and everybody in this room has been at their spiritual life long enough by now to know this, at some point you have to look up and ask yourself what's real. At some point you have to marry yourself to what's real. And that doesn't make life go away. It doesn't make the lie go away. It just shields you from being controlled by the lies. Does that make sense?
Yes.
dealing with life is like dealing with a liar. It's insidious. It sneaks in. You know it's not true in the beginning, but by not dealing with it for so long, you lose sight of the fact that it isn't true, and your entire life just becomes a reaction to a lie, and then a reaction to all the people reacting to your reaction to a lie. And it's the reason that people suffer. It's the reason that people go entire lives without stumbling into a natural flow. We all get stuck in it. It's very hard to even navigate in this world without participating in it. But every moment that you're going to regret on your deathbed is going to come from those moments where you didn't bother to just step up and speak the truth, to just step up, call it out, and let it go. So I just wanted to put that in the space this evening. I didn't really know that we were going to talk about this. I never really know what we're going to talk about, but this is what's coming forward. I don't think I've ever framed it this way before, and I've been at this a long time. So there must be something someone needs from this. But it is really, I think it's probably one of my most apt metaphors when I really look at how all of this works. The closest I've ever heard to this teaching is from Teyun Mares. He's dead now. But he was a shaman who used to say, don't trust words. All words are not, there are no true words. That all words are basically taking truth and distorting it. But I think that's kind of on the fringe of this teaching. The fundamental nature of the storyline is a lie. I think the more popular terminology is illusion. But what is an illusion? But something that tells you it's there that isn't actually there. Something conjured. Maya. So I'd like us to go back into meditation, and I'd like this to just sit in the space. Okay, just let this in a little bit. You don't have to think about it intellectually. Just let it sit in the space, and you can pick it apart later. So let's step back into what's real. Place your attention at the forehead and crown. Let your eyes take in the entire room at once. Let your ears listen to the entire world around you all at once. And just be with what's actually here right now. And just breathe in that space. Nothing to understand. Nothing to get on top of. Nothing to prove or disprove. Just sit, available, open. breathe the free air of this moment. This is really a teaching that's been hidden in plain sight. Every religion has it at its core, but no one's ever really ready to hear it. It's the teaching of Maya in the Buddhist and Hindu traditions. It's the teaching of the serpent in the garden in the Hebraic and Christian traditions. It's the teaching of the parasite in Toltec shamanism. It is the realization that sets you free, that helps you become done with the spinning, done with the constant need. Less available to be rattled. You start to naturally contain your own energy instead of always hemorrhaging. And when it dawns upon you for real, not intellectually, but at a visceral level, you'll look around and you'll see a world where everybody is caught in it. They're all caught in this deception. The answer, of course, that anybody watching someone lied to knows, is to just stop believing the liar. Just don't put any more trust or faith in something that only ever spins stories. Don't let its ups take you up, and don't let its downs take you down. Once you really realize this teaching, it'll still take some time for life to readjust. The reason for that is because you have so much stored in the subconscious. But at that point, you just know it's old programs playing themselves out. You just let them express themselves. And you don't respond or react to them in any real way. If you can't stop yourself from playing along with it, at a minimum, you show up for that moment and you live it very consciously. Eyes wide open, heart wide open, in full awareness. You have the experience. And that opens a road where you can slowly start letting it go. If you don't know why you're doing it, it just probably means that it was set up before you were born. And the road through it is the same. Do it in full awareness. Play with making a different decision and dealing with the discomfort of that. As you're ready. That's how you work on these things. You prioritize stability so that the entire world doesn't fall apart just to deal with one issue. It's a ruthless honesty that comes with no judgment, because you were just caught up in the same thing everyone else was. This was not an issue of free will. You were caught up by design. And you weren't caught up by mistake. You were caught up so that you could slowly free yourself. And in doing so, expand the consciousness of all. So there's nothing to feel bad about. We all are just where we are in our evolution. And there are always people further along. This is how they got there. If you're drawn to be here, there's a part of you that is deeply ready to recognize this. Even people who are drawn to watch this video, there's something there that is ready to start considering this. Those of you who are here live, that sort of thing doesn't happen by accident. Most people aren't ready for these kinds of teachings, at least not to actually experience it with full energy of the teaching. Maybe as an intellectual exercise, but it's not the same thing. You're encountering this truth. And you can't unencounter it. It'll be in your energy body, slowly waking you up. If you water it, that'll happen even faster. If you want to water it, the way to do that is once a day, early in the day, morning if possible. Go into meditation, even a quick meditation. And just remember the teaching. Dealing with life is like dealing with a liar. If you say that once to yourself, the teaching and the feeling should all come spilling back in. Dealing with life is like dealing with a liar. And then carry that as you walk through your day. Watch as life tries to lie to you. Watch as your mind tries to lie to you. Watch the world where everybody's mind is lying to themselves and trying to pull you into their lie. Again, not to judge. Notice the complications as just the repercussions of a lie. And then deal with it the way you deal with something that can't help but lie. Humor it, but hold your space sacred. Interact with it, but don't react to it. No problem, Amrita. Nice to see you. I feel like the teaching is pretty much complete anyways. Does anyone have any questions or anything before we end for the night? I'll be here next Thursday. Hope you have a great week.
Thanks, Lee.